I'm back! Sorry, Asher wanted to make an appearance. Yes, okay, get down. I love you too. Sorry guys, he's gonna be all over the place. John left and he does not know how to act. You don't know how to act when John's not here. He's used to me being gone for my pet sitting gigs, but he is not used to John being gone, so when he is, it's like the end of the world. Sit! Hi guys, it's Lauren. Welcome back to my channel, and it's been a long time since I filmed a video. I went on a little hiatus. There's been a lot of life changes. I'm hoping to get my motivation back and start making videos again for you guys. So today in this video, I am going to be telling you guys the case of 8-year-old Maddie Clifton. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Madeline Ray Clifton was born on June 17, 1990 in Jacksonville, Florida. Her parents are Sheila and Steve Clifton, and then she had an older sister named Jessie, and the family was very close. She loved music, playing piano, along with basketball and football, and she was even a dancer. Overall, she was an energetic, loving, happy kid. On November 3rd, 1998, 8-year-old Maddie was reported missing by her mother. Maddie had gone out to play around 5 p.m. and then around 6 p.m. Sheila had called her and Jessie in for dinner, and Jessie showed up, but there was no Maddie. Jessie said she wasn't even outside with Maddie, she hadn't really been near her, and she said that she had no idea where she was. So that is when the search party started, and everybody from the neighborhood came out. They were looking with flashlights, they were searching for a long time, trying to figure out where Maddie could have gone. Over the next 7 days, thousands of volunteers searched for Maddie. Included in this search were Steve and Missy Phillips and their son, Josh. Joshua Earl Patrick Phillips was born on March 17, 1984, to Missy and Steve Phillips in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Steve also had 2 children from previous relationships, Daniel and Benji. Supposedly, Steve was struggling with a drug and alcohol addiction, and he would get very violent towards his wife and son. It was said that Steve would be very, very strict towards Josh. Missy mentioned that Steve did not like other neighborhood kids being in his house when no adults were present, and he also didn't want Josh to hang out with any girls younger than him. Eventually, they moved from Pennsylvania to Florida, and in 1998, they were living in Jacksonville. The neighbors would describe him as quiet and friendly, and then one of his teachers even called him fun and silly. He was a C average student. So Maddie and Josh were kind of friends and playmates, and Steve said that Maddie really enjoyed playing with him. Sheila said that she had no reason to really even feel afraid or think Josh was a danger to the community. Even Jessie had called him a pretty decent kid. Now fast forward to the morning of the 7th day, and Missy had walked into Josh's bedroom and found a spot that looked kind of like a water spot, some type of wet spot that was at the foot of Josh's waterbed on the floor. She figured that this could be an explanation for the very odd smell that she had been smelling recently. And so she decided to investigate a little further. She noticed that there was a foot underneath the bed, and that is when she freaked out. She ran outside and found a cop that was hanging around and reported what she had found. Now we're going to go over what Josh said had happened when the police finally picked him up. He was home alone when Maddie had come over to ask him if he wanted to play. I saw one source kind of say that he claimed he had chores, so he wasn't going to, but caved anyway. Other sources didn't really mention that. I don't think that's really relevant. He said he accidentally hit her eye with the baseball, and she started screaming and crying. She fell to the floor. She was very distraught over this, and supposedly she was bleeding very heavily from this gash in her forehead eye area. So Josh panicked. He decided to take her back into his house, and he said that while he was dragging her, the bottom portion of her clothes came off. She was taken into his room, and he started panicking even further when she started making all kinds of noise. She was distraught, she was freaking out, and so he took a baseball bat and hit her a few times in the head. After he did so, he shoved her under the bed, and shortly afterwards, his father came home from work. Josh goes downstairs, he's talking to his father for a short period of time, and then he decides to come back upstairs. And that's when he noticed Maddie was A, still alive, and B, still making some noises. So he decided to hit her again. And this time, he took a knife and stabbed her 7 times in the chest and once or twice in the throat. Now, back to shortly after Missy had discovered Maddie under his bed and found the police officer. They picked up Josh while he was at school and arrested him on the spot. And Josh confessed within hours. Sheriff Nat Glover explained that upon entering Josh's room, they could see her feet hanging out from under his mattress. They removed her body and noticed that her hands were still clutching Josh's bed frame. So this was just further proof that she was in fact alive when he shoved her under there. Josh had even taped his bed frame so her body would stay more hidden, and they found his baseball bat hidden behind his dresser. Air fresheners were found all throughout his room, along with some incense that looked like it had been burned pretty recently, and a missing person poster for Maddie. The autopsy did show that she had her throat cut, stabbed 7 times in the chest, and hit 3 times in the head. They also found that Josh's tennis shoes had blood all over them. When Maddie was found, the shorts and underwear that she had on when she left her house were no longer on her, but rather found near her. And then Jesse had also said that apparently Josh had spoken to her and Maddie about sex before. So the prosecutors were wondering if this was more sexually motivated, but the autopsy showed absolutely no signs of sexual abuse or assault. Now, no dirt was found on Maddie's body, on her legs, her stomach, anywhere really, to kind of prove what Josh said about being dragged on the ground into the house. And if she didn't have any of her clothes on, because of this drag, you would think she would have some type of evidence to prove it. And then they also found no blood in the yard, no blood on the baseball that supposedly hit her, nothing. It was also noted that after Maddie was killed, Josh watched porn in his room. Patrol Sergeant Tom Hackney actually spoke on the interaction that he had with Josh. He was cool as a cucumber. He was absolutely not shocked. Our engagement with him was actually in the bedroom where she was recovered, and he sat on the bed petting his dog and just was as unemotional, unaffected by law enforcement being in his house. It's chilling thinking about it now. Now, the Phillips family faced a lot of scrutiny about this whole situation, and Missy had something to say about it. So many times I'd hear people remark, "What's wrong with that family? Why didn't they see this? And why didn't they notice that?" Because there wasn't anything out of the ordinary for me to notice. I came home from work that night. There was nothing wrong with my house. She also mentioned that Steve seemed very angry with the Clifton family, and she didn't really understand why. She said that he had a lot of misdirected anger. On November 16th, it was announced that they were going to try Josh as an adult. Richard Nichols was Josh's lawyer, and he did not have a single witness for the defense. He kept the defense that this happened as an act that began as an accident and deteriorated through panic that bordered on madness. Josh also mentioned that Richard never actually questioned him about what happened with the murder, his version of events, etc. They would just play chess the entire time. On July 6th, 1999, the trial started and only lasted 2 days, which this was partially and probably mainly because of the fact that the defense had no witnesses. The defense attempted to show scans from a neurologist to show bilateral lesions on Josh's frontal lobe. The prosecution, on the other hand, focused on the pornography found on Josh's computer. The judge, however, ruled both of these inadmissible. It only took the jury 2 hours to deliberate and come up with a verdict of guilty for first-degree murder, and he was sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole. The death penalty was off the table because Josh was under the age of 16. While in prison, Josh completed his GED, joined a prison band, plays guitar, got involved with some religious services, and did yoga. I also read that he works as a paralegal, assisting other inmates with their appeals, and also tutored other inmates as well. In June of the year 2000, Josh's father, who was 50 at the time, died in a car accident. Apparently, he was driving his van down County Road 267 when he kind of veered too much to the right. He was on the shoulder, so he overcorrected, veered too much to the left, all the way to the other shoulder, and then overturned his car. He was thrown out and died at the scene, and he was not wearing his seatbelt. So this is just my PSA to you guys. always wear your seatbelt. You never know when it'll save your life. In 2002, an appeal was filed, but the Florida 2nd District Court of Appeal upheld his conviction. In December of 2004, Missy wanted to have a new trial because she felt that Josh's age at the time was not really taken into consideration when they convicted him. In November of 2005, the Supreme Court of Florida set a new hearing for the next month to decide whether or not Josh should get a new trial. In 2008, two of the officials who were most responsible for Josh's life sentence kind of admitted that they didn't feel great about sentencing a 14-year-old to life in prison with no possibility of ever getting out. They felt that it probably would have been better to go for second-degree murder so that the judge had more options when it came to sentencing. I know some people thought the original sentence was appropriate, but that was a tough sentence for someone that young. I never got the feeling that it was a malicious, mean-spirited, calculated murder. It was kind of an impulsive act that, given a different set of circumstances, would never have happened. Now, two different sources conflict with this information. It's not super relevant, I just like to throw it in there that one source said Josh refused to write an apology letter to the family because he wanted to see them in person, so his sincerity could really show through. Another source said that he did write a letter of apology, but again, insisted on seeing them in person to re-apologize, if that makes sense, again, for the sincerity to show. Because he felt that in a letter, you cannot see if somebody really feels the way that they are writing it to be. In 2012, the Supreme Court of the United States case of Miller versus Alabama ruled that sentencing juveniles to a life sentence like that without parole is unconstitutional. In 2017, Josh's brother Daniel spoke to the media. I wish Joshua had never left Pennsylvania, but I could say that a million times and that's not going to change anything. Our father took Joshua away from me. He would have had me. He would have had Benji. He would have been an uncle to my kids and he would have assimilated into my life here. But when they went down there, he had nobody and that was my father's choice. It didn't matter, how much we begged him not. My father did what he was going to do and nobody would have anything to do with it. When all three of my kids would turn 8, it made it tougher for me. I would get angry and I wouldn't write to him and I wouldn't kind of be involved with him. I've been back and forth because I'm human and I'm a father and I'm a parent, but I'm also a brother. In November of 2015, Josh's lawyers were using Miller versus Alabama to file for a resentencing. In September of 2016, his appeal was successful and he was granted a new sentencing that would take place in June of 2017. However, that date came and he was still sentenced to life in prison. The judge said that this was an extraordinary case and a cold crime. It saddened him to sentence him to life, but he said that it was very concerning the type of detachment that Josh was showing in court. The judge even said, I believe that this is one of the most unusual crimes that warrants life in prison. In December of 2019, once again, Josh's sentence was upheld. The Florida 1st District Court of Appeals said that it could be modified in 2023, but Josh would have had to show a lot of maturity and rehabilitation. In June 2020, Josh appealed to the Supreme Court of Florida, but they turned down his request. And then in May of 2026, he officially withdrew his application for a sentence review. One source said that this was because he had not completed professional counseling regarding his crimes. Another source said that it was because he wanted to better address the rehab concerns that were raised by a state expert before he returned to court. Upon filing my application for sentence review and returning to Duval County for these proceedings, my family and I were excited as well as nervous. I was quite confident, and still am, that upon release I would live a productive and meaningful life absolutely free of any fears of a return to incarceration. However, after reviewing a report that was made by the state's expert witness, Josh's confidence dwindled quite a bit. Supposedly, the report raised many concerns about his rehab, including lack of professional counseling regarding his crime, childhood, early exposure to pornography, general identity issues, sexual identity, and a drug addiction that actually started while he was incarcerated. Josh had said that he did try enrolling in some of the Department of Corrections programs for these issues, but he was denied because of his life sentence. He also gave another apology to Maddie's family. As always, I wish to convey my deepest apologies to Maddie's family for the reopening of wounds that any legal action in my case surely causes. Jessie has been trying her hardest to make sure that Josh does not get a reduced sentence, and she says she will testify at his sentence hearing along with reading a victim impact statement. This time I'm going to sit down and I'm going to take my time and I'm going to write something that's going to hopefully make him feel, I guess that's not the goal, really, to make him feel bad. That's not my intention. But I want him to see how bad I'm hurting, and I don't really care that he's hurting or wants to get out of jail. So my hurt is forever. His should be also. He knew how badly she was hurt, and he could have gotten help twice, and she was still alive. And that to me, I can't see past child brain, adult brain, alien brain. I don't care. I truly do not. I think you know right from wrong. Maddie was buried 4 days after Josh's arrest. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments down below. It was clearly a very open and shut case, and I genuinely don't know what to make of Josh's version of events. Obviously, Maddie is not here to tell us what really happened. I don't know if there's an explanation out there for the lack of evidence in the yard and on the baseball and on her body even for what Josh said happened, but I truly hope that Josh has gotten the help that he so desperately needed for even thinking of doing something like this to anybody, let alone an 8-year-old girl who he knew pretty well by the sounds of it. So with that being said, let me know in the comments down below what you guys thought, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!